I'm Shane from Shane Smith Law here. Today we're going to talk about one of the client victories we just recently got here at Shane Smith Law. I'm here today with John, one of our attorneys here. John, tell us about this particular case and what we're able to do for this client.
So in this case, we represented a client named MM who was sideswiped in a high-speed accident. Injuries were immediate on the case. Luckily, he was able to get some immediate care, which is always good on the case. And he treated for a conservative kind of path of treatment and then was able to get in with specialists to identify all the injuries.
And what were his initial injuries?
So the initial injuries were apparent right at the scene because of the nature of the accident. It was spinal injuries up and down the spine in the neck and back region. The back and lower back injuries are the ones that ended up having to get the most treatment on the case.
Okay. And you said ultimately had some conservative care, which is, usually your chiropractic, physical therapy kind of thing. And then he saw a specialist. What was the specialist able to do for him?
So the specialist was able to immediately get the client in and get the correct diagnostic imaging, in this case, the MRI, which really gave us a better look at the case and the injuries, so we knew what we were dealing with. In this case, it immediately found that there was some serious injuries with the lumbar spine. It found herniations as well as facet arthropathy. And that's how we knew that the client, MM, was going to need some additional follow-up care. Luckily, the specialist, in this case, the orthosurgeon, is the exact specialist we want our client in with that type of injury. The specialist was able to get him on a correct treatment path.
All right. And what's facet arthropathy? What is that?
So that can be an aggravation of a portion of the vertebrae spine. And we do a mixture of MRIs as well as injections to identify and or rule out what type of spinal pain is. In this case, it was an aggravation and injury of the facet joint on his spine. So that requires typically injections. Okay. And if that doesn't get better, sometimes something called a radiofrequency ablation, which is where the doctor through a needle sends energy through the spine and it basically zaps the nerve that's causing the client pain.
Okay, so it zaps and then it quits registering and sending out those pain signals.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that seems like it's almost like just cutting off a light switch.
Exactly. And really, in a lot of cases, it's that dramatic and that quick, where you get the injection and then the pain stops.
Wow. Well, I know for our clients who have that, many of them have said it's a phenomenal recovery. Like you say, just almost that simple and easy. In MM's case, what overall was the treatment they received after getting this diagnosis?
So right after this diagnosis, the client ended up getting a surgery. And the surgery really helped MM get back to almost a baseline pain level, which is sometimes the best thing we can hope for in a case where, it may not be zero pain, but it takes the pain levels from a 9 or 8 out of 10 to a 1. Okay. In this case, that's a dramatic improvement.
Yeah, that's a huge improvement. I think most people can figure out a way to deal with a level 1 without just going to opioids. But at 9, it's no quality of life there whatsoever. So it sounds like phenomenal result in pain relief for our client, MM. On the flip side, how did the money part go?
So because of the the seriousness and the extent of the medical bills and the injuries that were immediately apparent, the insurance company did not put up a huge fight in this case, which was music to our ears, as well as a big relief for the client who was hurting so bad after this serious accident injuries that it can take a huge toll on anyone who's been a victim of a motor vehicle accident to have to go through all this and then be in a big fight with an insurance company. So we got ahead of that by documenting everything on the front end really well and getting over demand package to the insurance company quickly. They did not put up a very big fight and immediately tendered us all of the money that we were aware of on the insurance policy.
So it sounds like the key for this particular case to getting the result we needed or the client needed was getting that correct diagnosis and then getting the treatment associated with that part.
Absolutely. I always tell my clients we don't know what we don't know. So just by virtue of getting to the doctor and getting the imaging so we know the extent of your injuries and how serious they are is such a huge, huge part of presenting the appropriate evidence to the insurance company so that they can easily give us all of their money.
Which is usually our goal. And I've noticed in the arthropathy, that's actually a harder diagnosis to get and to sort of narrow down the cause of those symptoms when that's the case versus, say, a herniation or a bulging disc.
Absolutely, it definitely is. It's a little bit more of a winding road, but in this case, we were able to identify the injuries and get the diagnosis.
Well, how did MM feel about the settlement?
I think MM was ecstatic that we were able to get the case resolved so quickly. Also, a huge part of it was getting the appropriate care and getting that pain relief that we talked about. Going from a 9 to a 1 is a victory within itself.
Definitely. John, when you talked to MM, did he tell you what he was going to spend any of the money on?
We haven't talked about that, but I know that, especially when you're down and out, going back and forth to doctors, missing work, the bills can back up and create a lot of stress for people. These types of settlements will allow him to, catch back up on all those bills and collections that he had to deal with.
Well, I hope he does something that's a little fun at least.
Yeah, me too.
I'm Shane from Shane's with Law. This is one of our client victories here. Hit like and subscribe down below to see more updates from Shane's with Law, including client victories, but also tips and tricks of the day. If you're in pain, call Shane, 980-999-9999.
In pain, so I call Shane, 980-999-9999. In pain, call Shane.